Welcome to Literary Libations with Bill Allred, Ken Sanders, and Jimmy Santangelo. Today's discussion, Utah author Terry Tempest Williams.
All right.
Jimmy.
How you boys feeling tonight?
This afternoon, I'm feeling fine.
I think we're going to get us underway here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here this afternoon at the Clubhouse to celebrate Literary Libations. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, this afternoon. I don't know what anyone else is doing this Saturday afternoon, but I know what we're doing, and we're enjoying some sparkling wine, some charcuterie, and a little bit of rosé that we'll talk about. Before we jump into it, we'd like to thank you all for joining us here at Literary Libations. This is our 7th Literary Libations coming together and celebrating authors here in our community and throughout the nation. We started this at Ken Sanders' Rare Book Club over at the Leonardo Museum, which fit about 18, 24 people really packing it in. But look at this beautiful response that we have here today. This wouldn't happen without a number of it's a collaborative event, collaborative effort. Of course, we have Bill Allred from X96, Radio from Hell on mic.
Thank you. I love every single one of you.
Yeah. We also have Ken Sanders, the Ken Sanders Rare Bookstore here. For those that don't know,
Thank you. Ken loves every single one of you.
And for those that don't know, my name's Jim Santangelo with the Wine Academy of Utah. I'll be on the libations part of tonight. Thank you very much.
Yay, Jimmy!
Applause here. We do have a number of people from our community participating. We have sponsorship from Beehive Cheese. Heather was preparing that. Heather, thank you so much for the Beehive Cheese.
Delicious.
And then, of course, Dave and his team here at the Clubhouse. We're going to talk more about that. Has anybody ever been here at this space before? Nice. Has anybody ever gone by and man, I need to go in that space. What a beautiful spot. But before I'm going to throw it over to Bill to start us off, I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you this afternoon for joining us, because without each and every one of you here today, this is just way too much wine and cheese for the three of us to eat. I think and drink.
I don't know about that.
Maybe
here,
not. Maybe not.
Pour me another one, will you?
You got it. Cheers.
Listen, Terry Tempest Williams will be the first female writer that we have discussed here in the Literary Libation series. And that's really fitting.
Bill,
oh, no, I'm sorry, Willa Cather.
You're wrong about that.
Willa Cather and Dorothy Parker. So I was totally wrong about that.
Twice wrong about that.
But it is very fitting that we discuss Terry Tempest Williams here in this house, because this is called The House That Women Built. Constructed in 1913, this place drew hundreds of women to readings, recitals, salons, and parties. Eliza Kirtley Royal founded and was the first president of the Ladies Literary Club. I think her picture is out there somewhere as you come in. Born in Columbia, Missouri, Royal moved in 1871 to Salt Lake, where she remained for the next 40 years. Prior to the Ladies Literary Club, she was a member of the Blue Tea, Utah's first women's club. Upon her death in 1910, the Salt Lake Tribune heralded Ms. Royal as one of Utah's most prominent pioneers and one of the most brilliant women of the West. And then around 100 years later, Dave Brewer and some folks, the Photo Collective, came along and purchased this joint, and they gave it a new name, the Clubhouse. And here we are at the Clubhouse. Thank you, Dave Brewer. All right, let's get going. We're going to talk about Terry Tempest Williams today. Again, thank you so much. What is that, Jim?
Make mine a double.
Yes. This looks like Kool-Aid. I like them. So we're going to get going here. We are going to start with Jimmy telling us a little bit. Are you ready to do that? Telling us about what sort of libation he's concocted to go with Terry Tempest Williams. Jimmy is, of course, the mysterious mountebank of the Wine Academy of Utah. And, Jimmy, it occurred to me, and I should have told you this earlier, what we should have done for a drink for Terry Tempest Williams is Mormon punch. My mother-in-law used to call it frappe. 1 gallon of vanilla ice cream, softened, a half gallon of orange sherbet, 3 quarts of Sprite, which was probably actually 3 quarts of Big K because that was the cheapest, and 2 cups of pineapple juice. You combine it in a large container, you mash it with a potato masher until it's smooth, and it serves 30 people. So that's...
Bill, I got to disagree with you on that one.
Why is that?
Jimmy's is much better.
Well, so what you don't know is that when my mother-in-law would make the frappe, I also had a flask full of vodka. It hit the spot just right. But what have you got for us, Jimmy?
So what we have for you tonight is a rosé, and this is by A to Z Vineyards Winery out of Oregon. And more importantly, a rosé is you use red grape varieties. This is a Sangiovese and a Pinot Noir blended together. When you assess a wine, when you enjoy a wine, there's something you want to look at the wine, smell the wine, and put it to the palate. When I'm going to invite everybody to hold their wine glass by the stem and tip it forward at a nice slight angle, and what you want to do is just kind of give that wine a little looky-loo, and it gives you this beautiful, tells you a little bit of history about the wine. And it looks like we need more wine in this glass here. I know it's a very warm area here. A lot of the wine's evaporating in this area, in this section over here. And what we have, but more importantly, this is the most important part. Dawson, do you have a second? Grab that bottle of wine right there. Grab that bottle. Bring it over here. I'm going to pour it in this glass right here. Thank you so much. What I want everybody to do, to hold this wine glass by the stem. This is super important. Hold it right here in front of you, right here in front of your chest, right here. This is super important, super important. And raise a glass and cheers your friend next to you. Cheers, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here at Literary Libations. Let's give it a little sippy sip.
Mighty fine.
You want to get that wine all over the palate. You want to draw some air over that wine on the palate, and you get this beautiful citrusiness, a little bit of a peach pit, a little watermelon thing going on in there as well. Nice and dry, good acidity, beautiful dry rosé. Cheers, everybody. We'll jump into it.
Cheers.
Ken Sanders, Rare Books. Ken knows a lot of people, and he knows Terry Tempest Williams very well. I'm going to read some stuff about Terry Tempest Williams, and Ken will undoubtedly interrupt me and say, no, that's not true, Bill, or let me tell you about this, Bill. So let's get started, shall we? Terry Tempest Williams was born in California. Right? Okay. Is that okay? So far, so good?
You don't need to prompt me, Bill.
Okay. She moved here, though, at a very young age. She is a 6th-generation Mormon pioneer, and that history and heritage are very significant in Terry Tempest Williams' work. Also significant in her work, she talks a lot about the atomic testing in the 1950s and early 60s, which exposed many of us to radioactive fallout. Terry Tempest Williams believes that fallout was the reason, and she's probably right, that 9 members of her family had mastectomies, 7 members of her family died of cancer, and her mother and grandmother and brother were among those 7 who died of cancer. As a young woman, she worked at Sam Weller's Zion bookstore for a time, and she taught school. Now, did you meet Terry at Sam's?
Well, I worked off and on for Sam Weller from the late 60s to the early 70s, prior to opening up the Cosmic Airplane bookshop with Steve Jones, who had started it in 67 as a head shop, and a radical 60s fellow named Bruce Roberts. They're both deceased. During those years, Sam hired me 5 times, and he fired me 10 times. I know the math, which is a weak suit of mine, is not good, but the story is true. And Bill, you might be wondering if I'm ever going to answer your question or not.
I never wonder that, Ken.
Terry claims that we met at Sam Weller's bookshop back in the 60s. And we rarely together these days, but when we are, she introduces me, I've known Ken longer than my husband, Brooke.
Oh, how nice. Why didn't you, by the way, if Sam hired you 5 times and fired you 10 times. Why in God's name didn't you get the message?
Well, I thought I had a big coup, man. The fifth or the 10th time, no, the 5th time I went to work for him, I thought, man, I finally screwed the old man. He was paying me $5 an hour, Bill.
Wow.
Most money I'd ever made.
To this day, right?
Well, pretty much, yeah. But I got a lot of books.
Terry Tempest Williams got a master's degree and an honorary doctorate at the University of Utah, and then ended up teaching at the university. She co-founded the university's Environment Humanities Master's Program and taught there for 13 years. However, that did not end well, did it?
No.
As part of her environmental activism, Terry Williams and her husband, Brooke, successfully bid on an oil and gas lease for over 1,000 acres of land near their home in Castle Valley.
Now, this was inspired, we should add, by the heroic actions of one Tim DeChristopher.
Tim DeChristopher, who went to prison.
Who went to prison for making a false bid on oil and gas
Tim
leases.
DeChristopher, maybe some of you will remember, he went to the oil and gas lease. Periodically the BLM will auction off land, and companies, oil companies, gas companies will bid on them. Tim DeChristopher went to the auction with no intention of ever buying the land. He just made false bids.
It was a blizzardy day in December. He went inside, and the clerk asked him, "Are you here as a bidder?" "Yes, I am."
And that's where he went. That's ultimately what convicted him, because he lied about it. Now, Terry Tempest Williams and her husband, they didn't make a false. They bought the oil and gas leases. They paid money, and to protect the land around their home in near Moab,
Castle Valley.
Yeah, Castle Valley, and the university, coincidentally at that time, University of Utah, thought it was time for a contract renegotiation with Terry. And they kept negotiating with her and trying to lower her salary. And she kept saying, "No, can't." And she quickly figured out, even though the university would never admit this, that this was just the powers that be trying to get at Terry Tempest Williams and Brooke Williams because of this oil, their environmental activism. And finally, the way the story goes, and maybe you could shed some light on it, Terry just threw up her hands and said, I'm done with this. I'm done, and she quit her job at the University of Utah and moved on to other things.
Yale.
Yeah, she went to Yale, and she's currently a writer in residence at the Harvard Divinity School. Interestingly enough, that's where Tim DeChristopher, I think, went as well.
After Tim DeChristopher's 2 years in federal prison, they gave him I can't think of the word, a work release thing. You're still a prisoner, but they allow you to go out and get a job halfway so you can get ready to go back into society. So the Unitarian Church here in Salt Lake had been very, very supportive of Tim, through the Reverend Goldsmith, who now retired all those years. So they created a job for him, 40-hour-a-week job. You have to have a job to go to a halfway house, is the word I was looking for. So they gave him a job as the Director of Social Justice. Well, the DOJ happened to be in town that day, Bill, and they said, "Oh, no, you don't. That's your crime. You can't have that for a job." I get a phone call. 24 hours later, a woman with a clipboard comes down and signs over bidder 70, a.k.a. prisoner. I can't remember his prisoner's name, his number. And he showed up for work wearing a Robert Crumb Monkey Wrench Gang T-shirt, reporting for duty, sir. And of course, in the infinite wisdom of the Department of Justice, of course my bookstore will be a far more wholesome atmosphere for wild-eyed, ruly, radical environmental terrorists than the Unitarian Church.
I have to say, I interviewed Tim DeChristopher a number of years ago I think I sat down with him for 2 hours, and so far from being a wild-eyed radical, he's just the kindest, quietest, nicest guy who still does have very strong feelings about the environment.
Bill,
yeah,
you know I was exaggerating.
I did know that, Ken. As a matter of fact, when you open your mouth, you exaggerate. That's just the way it is. Now you have a rich history with Terry Williams. Where did that all begin? You spoke with her recently. She might have even come to this event today. But where did it all begin? Or
more about that later.
Yeah, or do you want to talk about what she had to say to you?
Well, I'm going to do that a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, so we told our beginnings together. Likely, I assume she's a teenager then, her earliest job at Sam Weller's. So the story I want to tell now is in the 70s, and you so far missed it in her bio. She became, I don't think, not a director, but she worked at the Utah Museum of Natural History when it was on the Circle Road, not the nice new posh place they have now.
Yeah,
sponsored by the environmental criminal polluters, the Kennecott Corporation. They get that right? They don't call themselves that anymore. Rio Tinto.
Rio Tinto.
Pardon me. So
anyway, she's at the Natural History Museum.
Terry brings in Douglas Arapaho Peacock and his brand new movie called Peacock's War. Douglas Peacock was a Vietnam-era Green Beret medic. When he got back home, he could not function. He couldn't be around people. He had to find something larger on the food chain than he thought he was. So he discovered Montana and grizzly bears, and he made this extraordinary film called Peacock's War that blends in the Vietnam with the grizzly bears.
You should point out that Doug Peacock is probably the character George Hayduke from the Monkey Wrench Gang. Probably Abby modeled that character on Doug Peacock because he was an angry guy.
If you know Peacock and you've read the Monkey Wrench Gang, yeah, none of the four gang members are specifically based. They're not the person, but their traits from Seldom Seen Smith. All four of them are real life people. So, and we don't want to get into that because we're going to do Edward Abbey in September again, but it's the 50th anniversary of the Monkey Wrench Gang.
Yeah. We'll tell you about that coming up.
So back to the Natural History Museum. So Peacock and I got along pretty well. First time I'd ever met him. Terry introduced me to him. And afterwards, the only thing we had to drink was a bottle of vodka.
Now, where
this is they have rooms
at the museum
where you sleep. I couldn't find. Well, I think they're all torn down. I don't know. Doug and I drank the whole bottle of vodka with orange soda pop from a pop machine that night.
Perfect.
That was more than 50 years ago, and I have never drunk vodka again.
Coward.
That's how I got to know Doug Peacock and Terry better too.
What? But Terry did not participate in the drinking.
No, I think I just learned something. In this paperback version of her book, Refuge, and A Natural History of Place, after this book came out, Terry and I had a very long conversation, and I assured her, Terry, it's so early in your career, this is an extraordinary book, but you're going to go on to bigger things. I'd have to say, in all honesty, and I would do this if Terry were here with us, she's written a lot of books, some better than others. She puts her heart, her mind, everything she has got into every book she has ever written. If you meet Terry Tempest Williams in person, that I suspect in this 50-odd people here, and I do mean odd, probably as odd as we are, Bill.
Hey.
If you've ever met her, she's made you cry.
Well, she'd make you cry reading some of the things she's written because she's her writing is very emotional, and you get the sense that maybe she's some bleeding heart liberal, and correct me, Ken, I don't know her, but I get the feeling that if you are around her, she's as tough as dried owl shit.
I don't believe anyone's ever called her that before.
I get the sense that she's a tough person.
Yeah, and yes, there's no question about it. She has a strength, a beauty, a grace in a human being that I am not sure I've ever met before. But to try and answer your question, this book had she wrote a new introduction for the 10th anniversary, and lo, these many years, she wrote a new introduction for the 25th anniversary. Terry makes no bones about her Mormonism in her life or her workings. But I just read last night the 25th anniversary edition, and by God, now I don't know if she formally went through the whole process and got excommunicated, but Terry's no longer a member or a believing member of the LDS Church, now, which has to be huge in that woman's life. Now, my family, my dad's side, Lord, my great-great-grandpa translated the Book of Mormon into Maori. I got all kinds of Mormon cred. But my dad was a baptized Mormon. We all know what that means. He never practiced it. When the home teachers came around, Bill, he would take his beer and his pepperoni down in the basement and hide from them and make my poor mother deal with them. And as soon as my little brother and I got old enough, we followed him down those stairs. But I get Mormon cred, but not like Terry.
Now, do you know I was under the impression that she was still a member of the Mormon Church.
I don't know that, but
she would be classified as a very liberal Mormon.
She, in her own words, says she's non-Mormon.
It says there?
Right in this very 25th anniversary introduction. I did not know this.
If you want a place to start with Terry, that is the book to start with, I think. It's called Refuge. I think we've got it for sale out.
We do. Yeah, we have a whole table of books out there for tonight's author and also the other, I'll do this at the end, but the other authors that we're going to bring to the Clubhouse, one per month through the end of this year. So I want to, last thoughts here on Refuge for a minute. I'm going to come back to it when I do a reading from it. But I don't know that she's got a new book coming out in March, so we'll find out. I actually think all those years ago, I gave Terry bad advice. She's written some very good books, and some of the stuff she's done, she's a darling in the New York Times and all the national magazines and papers. She's a brilliant person and a writer. But I think because this story is so personal that I think I gave her bad advice. I think you can have a different opinion than I am. You know what Charles Bukowski said about, opinions and he wrote a book of poems called All the Assholes in the World and Mine. I think this is
That's
Terry's
inclusive.
finest book.
If you, it's the first thing I ever read by Terry Tempest Williams, and it's remarkable in that she's dealing with her mother's dying of cancer, and she manages to tie that into her feelings about the migratory bird refuge in the Great Salt Lake.
Bear River
The Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge up in Box Elder, and that which is part of the Great Salt Lake essentially. And it's remarkable how she does that. She'll go from one to the other, and you see the connections, start to see the connections, and that's what she sees, I think, when she looks at nature and the environment and the Great Salt Lake. My God, she loves the Great Salt Lake with all of her heart. And she's able to draw connections between the environment and personal things in her life, and presumably personal things in your life. I would recommend an essay that she wrote in 2023 for the New York Times. It's a long, I think it might have been in the magazine. It was a very long essay with great photographs called "I Am Haunted by What I Have Seen at the Great Salt Lake." It'll blow you away, as we may all be blown away if the Great Salt Lake disappears. Because if the Great Salt, that's interesting. She doesn't like to call it the Great Salt Lake. I mean, that's what it's technically called, the Great Salt Lake. She says it's just the Salt Lake. It's my Salt Lake. It's not the Great Salt Lake. It's my Salt Lake. And if it disappears, we're in a world of trouble. And she describes that in that essay. So look for that in the New York Times.
Let's dwell on refuge for a bit. So these are just some excerpts that struck me, Bill. Looking back, perhaps this is from her, I think, 10th anniversary intro. Looking back, perhaps, these are the very ideas at the heart of refuge, and I didn't even know it. I only knew what I saw in the rising Great Salt Lake, the displacement of birds, the displacement of our own family, the disorder and randomness of cancer, the healing grace of earth, transformation, the spiral, Robert Smithson's spiral jetty. The spiral jetty is where I house my faith that this earthwork exists without my having to see it, faith in the oscillations of a rising and receding lake where the spiral is covered and then momentarily exposed, the expanding and contracting systems of energy that stimulate us, stretch us, and allow us to grow. I do not believe life exists in a state of equilibrium. The only truth I trust is change.
The word that's used sometimes to describe her writing is ecofeminism, which I think is a horrible word. It says, as a founder of the ecofeminist school of writing, it's a portmanteau word that doesn't need to exist. But then it goes on to say, it argues for a connection between the oppression of women and the destruction of the environment. Her work has influenced generations of environmental writers.
As she was influenced by generations before her.
The essay that I was talking about, about the Great Salt Lake, here's what she says about Salt Lake. I believe that Utahns have not fully grasped the magnitude of what we are facing here as the lake shrinks. The retreat of Great Salt Lake, that's what she calls it, Great Salt Lake, is not a singular story. Death is what happens to vast stretches of the Aral Sea in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. By the late 2010s, now seen as one of the planet's largest environmental disasters. Pick your place anywhere in the world, and Great Salt Lake is a mirror reflecting a flashing light on what is coming and what is already here. Our natural touchstones of joy will deliver us to heartbreak. Each of us will face the losses of the places that brought us to life. Utah is my home. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints raised me to care about community in the fullness of creation. We were taught through sacred texts, the pearl of great price among them. For I, the Lord God, created all things, of which I have spoken spiritually before they were naturally upon the face of the earth. Great Salt Lake had a spirit before she had a body. Brine shrimp have a spirit. White pelicans and eared grebes have a spirit. They are loved by God, and we are loved by God. After Joseph Smith, the founder, was killed in 1844, the newly recognized prophet, Brigham Young, sought a territory of arid lands for his persecuted people, lands that no one else would want. A Great Salt Lake rimmed with rugged mountains, seemed an appropriate destination. He made a hard sell, leave everything and come to Great Salt Lake. But if that lake is gone, what reason do we have to be here? None. We have no reason to be here if the lake goes away. We'll just be breathing arsenic air as it blows off the dry lake bed. And pretty soon, I just picture this dystopian empty buildings in downtown Salt Lake City with dust on them, and the people have gone elsewhere because it's become inhabitable. Anyway, it's a great essay. There's a lot more to it than that. Of course, Spencer Cox tells us we'll be fine. Pray for rain and fast. Well, we haven't done that hard enough, I guess.
Terry once told me after Refuge was published, I don't know who the prophet of the LDS Church was in the 90s. Maybe somebody
Spencer
does.
Kimball, perhaps?
Thank you. And she gave me a photocopy of the letter. I haven't lost it, but I've misplaced it. Because the letter just blew her sockets out. Because, Refuge, the whole book is a metaphor.
Yeah.
And President Kimball got that. And the entire first presidency wrote Terry a letter exploiting that metaphor, and maybe not in so many words, but telling her that she needed to have children. That letter freaked the shit out of Terry, as it would anybody. So here's, since we're on the lake, 25th anniversary of Refuge intro. Much has changed since then. The record high level of 4,211.85 feet reached in January 1987, the month of my mother's passing, has fallen to drought so severe that the North Arm near Promontory Point hit a historic low of 4,189.2 feet, breaking the previous record of 4,191.35 feet set in 1963. The flooding lake that I knew has become the shrinking lake that Alicia knows, a newfound artist and collaborator, photographer of Terry's, where both Mormon women drawn to water, seeking solace from the cities that raised us to conform. I have left my religion. Alicia embraces it. Both of us pray to the beauty of creation. What binds us together is change, climate change. Two words that were not in my vocabulary when I wrote Refuge in 1983.
By the way, if any of you have any questions or comments, while we're going along,
we're so tardy in saying this.
I keep meaning to say that at the beginning of this whole thing. You should feel free to be a part of this discussion as it goes along. We don't need to wait for a question and answer period. You can just ask questions or make comments now. I think, do you have a?
If you can get a word in edgewise between the two of us.
Can I watch them, though, to make sure that they're not falling asleep, or perhaps if they're raising their hands?
I don't think we can fall asleep with this, but last night my wife and I went and saw The Librarians on the Sundance Summer Series, which is about the attacks on school libraries and criminalizing librarians. And it had me reflecting on, like you mentioned, activism, social activism, activism for the environment, and the coordinated attacks we see on books, on Harvard, on NPR and PBS, on thinkings, and it seems to be almost hobbling the pillars of free thought, selling our BLM lands here in Utah, like that wonderful, lovely person, I won't say it because I know this is going to be broadcast, but as someone who might have seen or reserved, been around some of the radicals that we saw from the 60s and those ideas, and then even people with those thoughts, how would you reflect on what we could learn and take from those best ideas as we kind of enter this era?
I as one who was around as Ken was, kind of what I take from all of that is, I was going to say it doesn't do much good, but that's not true. I mean, the Vietnam War finally ground to a halt because it was pretty clear that the public just didn't want to have it anymore. But things, I don't know, I'm so goddamn depressed anymore, I can't. I mean, depressed and angry because it seems as though the forces that be, the powers that be, have found a way to just grind us into submission. Found a way to make us say, damn, that makes me mad, but it's not going to do any good. So I don't know how to answer that question. I just danced around it, and I don't have an answer. But I think all you can do is speak your truth, speak your conscience. If you don't like what they're doing with school books, say so. And I guess more and more people are doing that. More and more people are showing up to town halls that their congressmen are at, and the Republican congressmen in this state, and they're showing up for those, and their constituents are saying, we don't like the job you're doing. We don't like the way you're doing it. They continue to do it and ignore us, but at least people are showing up and saying something about it. So,
communication is the key. We all have to do our part. There's no one way. There's no one path. There are 50-plus people in this room today. I suspect we have an awful lot of overlaps, an awful lot of kindred interests and beliefs, but every one of us is unique and an individual, and there is no one right way to tell the truth, to react to lies, or to behave. A year and a half ago, our Utah State Legislature banned 14 books. I invited my then 12-year-old granddaughter, Lyra. I sent her the articles about it, and she wrote an op-ed piece entitled, "What a 12-Year-Old California Girl Thinks of the Utah State Legislature Banning These 14 Books." And she has been writing an online young adult book review column for me ever since. Very, very proud of that girl. Going back to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, we thought we were doing one thing, maybe we were doing another. Who the goddamn knows or can remember now? We tried to do good. We did a lot of silly things. Speaking for myself, I don't think I can remember it all, but of a lot of actions that I took place in, there's absolutely no question that under this administration, they wouldn't have stopped at arresting us. I think we would have been killed in our tracks. They're simply not going to allow it now.
thanks for the question. Jesus.
Okay, wait. Well, okay. Does anyone else have a comment, a question they'd like to do right now? We value your. I mean, Bill and I are like expert blatherers, but we do. Does anybody have one? I want to move. Can I move?
Oh,
Yeah, we have one over here. One over here.
Yeah, please.
Hi, I just want to bring it back to Terry if we can. Is there a certain passage or even something she's told you personally that has stuck with you? Something that you think about frequently, just something influential, parts she's had on your life?
Terry is actually younger than I am, though not, she's my little brother's age. She and some people here may know the radio journalist and sometime author Scott Carrier. Scott Carrier and Terry Tempest went to Highland High School together. Despite her being younger than I am, Terry, and I've known her 50, 60 years, she has always been someone that I've looked up to, that I gain inspiration and courage from. And the things that she has been through, how in God's name Brooke and Terry are still married, I'll never know.
What do you mean by that?
Brooke gets a call in the middle of the night from Terry on a cell phone that goes out of service after 2 minutes, and Brooke, I'm lost in the black, and I don't know when I'll see you again. Look, I was married once for 10 years, okay? I've been divorced for 40. Clearly, I didn't get it.
That would have been you. That phone call, that would have been the end of your marriage right there, right?
I would have, I'm a male. I would have wanted to go save her, but how, you don't know where she is. The time, I think she wrote about it. I'm not sure if it's in Coyote Canyon. Terry has written 20 books now. Holy moly. The time they were in the backside of the Abajo Mountains, the Blue Mountains down outside of Monticello, in the dark canyon that runs over 50 miles down from the Abajos into the Colorado River before the confluence with the Green. And Terry fell, I'm not trying to exaggerate here, Bill, but say some 50 feet down a cliff and basically tore her face off. And it hanging like a mask. And Brooke has to pick up the pieces of his wife and put her on his back and backpack her 20 miles to civilization to save her life.
But what is he supposed to do? Say, well, that's it, honey. We're divorced. That's it, baby. We're no more of that crap. I'm out of here. No, I mean that's what marriage is about.
Well, like I say, I wouldn't know. If I did know, I've forgotten.
Yes.
Okay, we got to lighten it up here. May I?
Okay.
Okay, this was my beginning, Bill. Mm-hmm. Thanks for having such a great outline. I'm being facetious.
Listen, I wanted you to do this at the beginning, and you said, I'll get to it.
Yeah, well, things got in the way. Terry Tempest Williams sends everyone here her love and best wishes. She wanted to be here today. She's got a lot of personal stuff going on in her life. So here's one anecdote. A funny but typical and true Terry Tempest Williams story. She's at a party in Santa Fe. Terry doesn't like parties. She loathes parties. But she was there, and the late publisher, Gibbs Smith, happened to be there. And they were serving almonds and ice cream. And she picks up a bowl, not a plate, that she thinks has almonds in it. And so she puts the ice cream in, and she's spooning it, the almonds. And these almonds are like the worst almonds she ever ate in her life, man. They're really, really hard. And she just kind of womans it up and
powers through.
Finishes the ice cream and the so-called almonds. Just in time, the host comes by and she says, "Oh my God, what are you doing with that glass? That's got all the broken china shards in it from the cup I broke." She ate every one of them. I don't know where Brooke was. Brooke doesn't seem to be on the scene, but Gibbs was there. Gibbs takes her to the hospital, and Terry, here's how she described it on the phone to me a few days ago. Terry described her experience as like potsherds moving down through her throat and into her body. The amazed and befuddled doctor gave a loaf of white bread to her and told her to drink a lot of milk. Gibbs watched over her throughout that night, and by morning, she had passed every one. That's just a quintessential Terry Tempest Williams stories. So here's a funny one she told me.
And again, why didn't he say, "I'm divorcing you," right there?
Well, apparently he wasn't even there. Terry's dad, he was quite ill, has a favorite author and a favorite book. This is Terry Tempest Williams' dad, Larry McMurtry in Lonesome Dove. Always blathering about it. One day, Terry recites to me, Dad gathered his children and took them to his safety deposit box at the bank. And this is after years of him blabbering about his favorite book. He said, I'm going to show you your inheritance. So they go to the bank, they make the big deal, you got to go in those little rooms with all the little safety deposit boxes, and you got to have your key, and they got to have their key, and then they open it up, and they set it on a table, and then he leaves Terry's dad and the children alone. And Dad reaches into the safety deposit box. There's only one thing in it. A VHS tape of Lonesome Dove. This is your inheritance.
That's what a fine inheritance, too. Let's talk a little bit about how she's regarded by other writers. We were talking about that a little bit before we went on. Terry Tempest Williams has hung with the best of them. She's knew all of these guys, Edward Abbey and Bowden and all of that. But how was she
Jim
regarded?
Harrison, Doug Peacock.
How was she regarded by them?
Peacock and Terry are inseparable. Ed knew her, but Ed passed in 1989. From the early 80s, there's a great story. Edward Abbey and a brand new author named Barry Lopez. Barry Lopez and Terry were the best of friends their entire lives. So Barry's got, one book out. Nobody knows who he is. There's a party after the reading up at the U, up in the avenues, and everybody's crowded into the living room, and some of my Cosmic Airplane employees and I and Terry are in the kitchen, and there's this kind of bird-like man perched on a spiral staircase, mesmerizing us with stories. It was Barry Lopez. And Terry's grandma, who was still alive back then, disappeared into a bedroom with Edward Abbey. And she later came out and declared, Edward Abbey told me what his favorite book of his books that he'd written was, but she refused to tell Terry or anyone else. Later, apparently, Terry got it out of her that it was Black Sun. Black Sun.
Well, but this is not in regards to what we were talking about earlier, that they didn't like, that a lot of people did not, a lot of male counterparts didn't like her writing.
Not something, I don't know about writers. She was friendly with Jim Harrison, but there is this sentiment. A lot of men, probably because we are men, and the one thing I can truly say that I know about men and women, we're not the same. We're really, really different.
The big problem with being men is that we're men.
Yeah. Oh, amen, brother.
I mean,
so there's a sentiment. There's a sentiment. 4 empty glasses. He's communicating to us. I don't read empty wine. I can't read empty wine glass, Jim.
Yeah, I'll have some more. Is that what you were asking?
Sure. Yeah.
No,
Bring it on.
No, wait.
Leave the bottle this time.
Ken, you were saying to me earlier that there were men.
I didn't say writers.
Oh, But men did not like her writing.
There are men that think Terry's voice, persona, whatever, is like chalk on a blackboard, if you will. Again, I alluded to this earlier. If you've ever spent even 5 minutes with Terry, I guess you're either going to really solidify that opinion or you're going to fall in love with her. Because her spirit, her animus, her whatever in God's name it is that she possesses that most human beings don't, it's powerful. I've seen her at Pack Creek Ranch get 100 people outside at the full moon, down on their haunches, howling like wolves.
She writes in a very a style of great empathy for the wilderness, for nature, and it's a really feminine outlook on things, which in a lot of respects I think we need way more of. But it's a very emotional style, a very emotional look at the natural world and Mother Earth and how important that is. And I can see a lot that maybe some men reading it would feel a little uncomfortable reading some of it because it is so full of emotion.
Yeah. No, it's raw.
Yeah, it's very, very much. She also writes I think she ought to write mysteries. I was reading this little bit in this book called Red. It's a collection of essays and stories, and I'll just want to read this little bit. It's like a mystery story she's written. It's called Perfect Kiva, and I won't read the whole thing. I've skipped through a bunch of it, but it starts out. Tell me this doesn't sound like a mystery. In a poorly lit corner of a restaurant in Moab, a woman draws a map on a napkin and slips it to a man. The man studies the paper carefully and asks her a few questions. He thanks her. They pay for their meals, and then they part ways. The man stops at a gas station, fills up his truck, then walks to the corner payphone and makes 3 calls. Within hours, he meets 5 friends in Blanding, Utah at the Rainbow Cafe. They conspire under plastic jade lanterns, eating Navajo tacos and egg rolls. It's called Perfect Kiva. We'll camp on top of the mesa tonight, then we'll hike into the canyon tomorrow. The site is on our right, high up, the 3rd ledge down. I have a map, he said. A raven flew out from the rocks. There it is, cried the leader, the 3rd ledge down. I'll bet that's our alcove. It goes on, they climb down into the canyon, climb up onto the ledge. Perfect Kiva. A juniper ladder with rungs of willow led into the underworld. They paused. The ladder had supported the ancient ones, but it might not support them. They chose not to use it. Instead, they jury-rigged a sling out of some nylon cording and carabiners and anchored it around a boulder, and then they lowered themselves down into the kiva, the perfect kiva, round like earth. Hidden in the earth, the 6 sat. They sat in the kiva. But the focus inside the kiva was on the sipapu, the small hole in the floor that, according to the Hopi, promises emergence. In time, each one circled the sipapu with his fingers and raised himself up on the slings. They replaced the rope removed the rope from around the boulder and placed the Anasazi ladder back where it had been for as long as the ravens had a memory. A few months later, in a poorly lit corner of a restaurant in Moab, a woman speaks softly to a man. They took the ladder. They put it in a museum and stabilized the kiva. It's just not the same, she whispered. They fear aging and they want it stopped, like an insect in amber. He studies her face, asks a few questions. He thanks her. They pay for their meals and then they part ways. The man stops at a gas station, fills up his truck, then walks to the payphone and makes 3 calls. Within hours, the 6 meet in Blanding at the Rainbow Cafe. It's called theft in the name of preservation, he says. That ladder is held hostage at the local museum. It belongs to the desert. It must be returned. The friends move closer around the table. Tomorrow, he says. No, tonight, they insist. They're going to go steal that damn ladder out of the museum and put it back where it belongs.
I know that kiva, Bill. And Tom Till took a beautiful photograph of it called Perfect Kiva. Neither Tom or I are ever going to tell you where it is.
I could tell that was based on either she was there with one of those 6 people, or she certainly knew somebody who was there.
A couple of anecdotes, one of them quite brief.
Do you have a...
Yeah. Are you good? All right. So...
I don't even have any idea what's going on. I just need another glass of wine. That's all I know.
Yeah. So in Coyotes Canyon, the publisher Gibbs Smith published, Terry excitedly called me up one day. Ken, I just got my first royalty check from Gibbs Smith, and I only owe him $89.64. Terry, that's not the way royalty checks are supposed to work. You've come a long way, baby. Another one. So, 1989, Edward Abbey died, March 14th. I was in Hong Kong. I got a telegram. A week before that, I'd been hearing all these rumors how sick he was. And I wrote him a letter. God damn it, Ed, what's going on? When I got returned from Hong Kong, and literally he had mailed this before his death, but I received it after his death. Ken, who's spreading these ridiculous rumors about me? And furthermore, why do you believe them? See you in the spring. Love, Ed. So the family held a private wake at Saguaro Monument in Tucson. I flew directly from Hong Kong to Salt Lake and got on another plane to make that. And then we realized there's something bigger going on here. People are just coming into bookstores everywhere, standing around in the Ed Abbey sections. So Jim Stiles, the Curmudgeon ranger of the Arches National Park that hitchhiked out here from Kentucky in his youth after reading Desert Solitaire, went on to become the publisher of the Canyon Country Zephyr. Terry Tempest Williams and myself began to organize a public wake that took place on John Wesley Powell, in May of 1989, north of Arches National Park. We used a quote in a postcard, Ed from Desert Solitaire. First of all, you've got to get out of the car to see something. Walk, crawl on your hands and knees until you begin to bleed. Maybe you'll see something. Probably not. That was the invitation. Terry, Jim, and I, we had at that event Ann Zwinger, Barry Lopez, Dave Foreman, all the Earth Firsters, just so many people I can't even remember them. There were more than 1,000 people walked over a mile at 6 o'clock in the morning to get out there. Ken Slight was there, just everyone. John Dupuy, Jack Leffler, and even one of Ed's old girlfriends who was the inspiration for Bonnie Abzug, Ingrid Eisenstatter. Wow, did she make an entrance. She walked a mile in a black funereal dress with a hat and a veil and high heels.
Well, that's very impractical.
You've never met Ingrid, have you? I met her that day. Anyhow, Terry picked Wendell up at the airport and brought him out to my house, and he spent the night there. And the next morning, we picked Terry up, and the three of us drove to Moab. Wendell, who's about 6'5", 6'6", long, lanky legs, insisted in sitting in the back of my old VW Squareback, and Terry's up front with me driving. And Wendell's just a pine, and you know, so on that trip, this is in the late 80s, it was still really, really wet. And she used my Earth First non-blue Spurs Jackson, which I stole from a 1940s comic book. Spurs Jackson is space cowboys like to beat Nazis up on Mars. I thought it was an appropriate name for my non-de-plume for Earth First.
Stay on track now.
Oh, I am. That was a tiny little meander.
Okay.
So everywhere we go, Spurs, stop the car. And there's all these goddamn birds everywhere. It was the longest drive to Moab I've ever done in my life because we were constantly stopping the car. So just, after you leave Price, Helper, you got the Wellington garden spot that it is. You got the Book Cliffs rolling along down the left side, and it's kind of before you get to Woodside and before you can really see the San Rafael swell coming out on the right.
It's where there's always fresh jerky for sale, right?
That's Woodside. Yep. Alien jerky, I believe, these days. So Wendell Berry says, I surely wish I could see a bald eagle. Stop the car! Sitting on a fence post across the damned highway is a golden eagle. Wendell and I take turns looking at each other, look at Terry. How the hell did she do that?
Did you start the story with peyote at any point? I just wondered if that. No.
Well, we've been doing some time slipping here today, to borrow from Slaughterhouse 5, Planet Tralfamadore.
Listen, anybody have any questions, any comments, any further business to do? Anybody want to say hello, goodbye? I must be going. Yeah. What? Where? Somebody? Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Couch.
After Refuge, what's your second favorite book?
After Refuge.
I'm really fond of Coyote's Canyon. It's not that well known. Edward Abbey used to say he wrote 5 texts for 5 picture books. Nobody reads the goddamn words in the picture books. They only look at the pictures. And he was right. Beautiful John Telford photographs. If I may, I do a little quote.
By the way, in this book, Red, Coyote's Canyon is anthologized in here as well. There are a lot of really good things in here.
Bill, what's your favorite? Terry.
Well, I really like Refuge, and I haven't read all of this yet, but I really enjoy this. This is pretty recent. Red.
Here's from the acknowledgments in Coyote's Canyon. And the last of it, and a special debt must be paid to the public relations firm of Peacock, Abbey, Foreman, and Sanders for tutelage in desert etiquette.
Oh, that's why you like that one.
Well, of course I do. But no, I love the text.
If it said all red in there, I would have liked that one too. Any other questions, comments, or anything? Anybody?
The Coyote Clan. When traveling to southern Utah for the first time, it is fair to ask if the red rocks were cut, would they bleed? When traveling to Utah's desert for the second or third time, it is fair to assume that they do, that the blood of the rocks gives life to the country. And then, after having made enough pilgrimages to the Slick Rock to warrant sufficient separation from society's oughts and shoulds, look again for the novice you once were who asks if sandstone bleeds.
It's very lovely. That really is nice.
This book is full of that.
Yeah, it is. And it's, again, that essay is in here, but it doesn't have pictures. It's just words. Anything else? Anybody? Nope. Jim?
Wait, I do have a final message from Terry.
Okay.
She related this to me on the phone yesterday. I tried to take notes, and I wrote it up. How amazing in our lifetime, and I'm not really quoting her, this is just kind of a mishmash of our conversation. We have witnessed the Great Salt Lake at both historic highs and historic lows. The Utah legislature, by the laws it has recently passed and signed off on, have contributed to the demise and murder of this ancient lake. The Great Salt Lake currently sits at 37% capacity. Without intervention, it will drop further. This is called the no zone. I can't read my own handwriting. No saline Dead Sea or lake that has ever dropped below the no zone has ever recovered or survived. They have truly become dead seas without any water. Terry wishes to tell everyone in this room, everyone we know, and everyone she knows, that each and every one of us must do anything and everything we can to add water to the Great Salt Lake, or we all will be guilty, along with the Utah State Legislature, of its murder.
Please fast and pray for rain. Fast and pray for rain. And I think next month I'm going to organize, we're all going to go out on a Sunday and pee into the Great Salt Lake to see if we can raise its level.
Well, that'll raise the salinity.
That's right.
So this is our seventh Lit Lib, as we call it. We've been having fun and improving every one, right, Jimmy?
No, absolutely. This is our seventh one.
But this is our first at the Ladies Literary
The Clubhouse
Society, a.k.a. the Clubhouse. It's a wonderful space. I cannot thank Dave and his partners and his crew so much. I think this gives us so much that we hope that going forward we can live up to his and to your expectations. We're going to take the month of August off, and because we have already done Edward Abbey and 3 women, Bill.
Yeah.
4 now, I think, if I'm counting right. Math's not my strong suit.
You're fine with it. You're fine. Join us on the 27th of September here at the Clubhouse for it's part of a nationwide celebration of the 50th anniversary of the publication of the Monkey Wrench Gang. It'll probably sell out, so get your tickets for the Monkey Wrench Gang at $50 right now. You can get your tickets at the clubhouseslc.com/events. That's clubhouseslc.com/events. Thanks to Dave, Lizzie, Savannah. Thanks to Ken's crew, Natalie and Gabby. Thanks to the folks at Beehive Cheese, Britton Welsh, the CEO, and Heather Cox, who put together that fine charcuterie out there. That's it. I'm Bill Allred. That's Ken Sanders. Remember, if you're pouring drinks, always make mine a double. All right.
Literary Libations is a presentation of the Let's Go Eat and Drink Show in association with the Wine Academy of Utah, Ken Sanders Rare Books, and the Clubhouse on South Temple. For more information on the Wine Academy of Utah, it's www.wineacademyofutah.com. Ken Sanders Rare Books is an eclectic bookstore located inside the Leonardo Museum. Contact Ken and the store at kensandersbooks.com. In addition to presenting weekly in-house creative programming, the Clubhouse on South Temple is a premier location for weddings, corporate parties, wellness events, photo shoots, musical performances, and more. Go to clubhouseslc.com for details. And for the Let's Go Eat and Drink Show, search your favorite podcast app. You can contact us at the Let's Go Eat Show at gmail.com. I'm Zach Caton, and as the late Paul Harvey used to say, good day.
But I get to what you're saying, 'cause you got